in there, right? I have to. Oh, I got to add you to the stream. There we go.
Okay, great. I went on live from my side also.
Okay. Thanks for bringing me this coffee, baby. This is very good.
Great.
Not you, I
Can you hear me
guess.
now?
Talking to my wife. Could also use a comb if you could hear me. I have the party parrot hair going. All right, we good to go? Kick this thing off.
Yes. I have muted the one from my side. I only have one live. So, yeah, I think we're good to go. Can you check on the echo for your end? Actually?
What's that?
I think echo is from your end. If can you check if also is there?
I don't hear any echo.
Okay, no worries. So
Yeah.
let's start. So Robbie, welcome to the Life of Freedom podcast. So we are also going live on your channel as well. So like tell us like from the last time we met. So we talk about kind of uh, like your life after like your lifestyle, the crazy lifestyle you had. Yeah, we talked in actually 2022 is kind of I think even before the war I think that happened. So like how was your life has been since then?
How's my life been since the war?
Yeah, like yes, I think last time we talked on the podcast, I think it was a year ago. Maybe.
Yeah, I think when you interviewed me, I was in Turkey. It was
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
about a year ago. Um, yeah, so in early, let's see, January of 2022, um, I was engaged. My Ukrainian fiance, who's now my wife. So we left Kiev, packed up the car with our two dogs, and drove down to Turkey. Um, our plan was to avoid the cold and the winter and to play golf. And then the war broke out, and also my wife was modeling in Istanbul. So
okay,
I can work from anywhere, obviously, running my inner confidence community. So I was doing that. I actually had a couple clients come and visit us in Istanbul. My wife was working as a model, and then the war broke out. So our plan prior to that was to go back to Ukraine and wait for her to get her K1 fiance visa, so we could come to the States and get married, and then have the option of living both here in the States and in Ukraine. But obviously now we don't feel comfortable going back to Kiev because of the war and the situation. And we're waiting for my wife's green card. We've been in the States now since June, so it's been about 10 months. And we just moved to LA. So we've got a cool spot here. Not sure if you can see through the window there, but
ah, nice.
nice view of Century City.
Yes,
And
like how far from it you are?
from we're in like central LA.
Oh,
Yeah. So, or West LA, I guess you could say.
nice.
Yeah.
So let's say so we like going back to kind of social circle. So we that was the like the second part of the previous episode we had. Kind of let's say it goes from your time to kind of stop like exclusively dating and like having multiple girlfriends and like moving out there. So uh, kind of how do you uh, like thought of like moving to that direction like instead of continuing on
So the question is, how do you move from an exclusive style of dating, or I guess, or how do you move from the standard style of dating
yeah, yeah,
to a more social circle style of dating?
yeah, yeah,
So social circle is kind of one of those buzzwords that you see being
yeah,
thrown around in the the dating community these days. And a lot of guys want to do like social circle game, but they don't yet have the ability to build what I call like how do I describe it? Trying to think of the words to not sound not sound bad. Okay, so when women are dating guys, they're dating multiple men at the same time, right? They don't call it dating. They say, "Oh, I'm just seeing him," or "Yeah, I'm just talking to these guys," right? But really, what's happening is they're typically sleeping with a variety of guys, and they choose the best one out of the bunch, and they choose that guy for a myriad of reasons. Typically, they're attracted to all those guys, otherwise they wouldn't sleep with them, and then they're choosing the guy for his personality, right? Or for his ability to, be a good partner or a good provider down the line if they're looking to start a family. And most guys do not employ that same dating strategy. Most guys go from either involuntarily celibate, right? They're not getting laid at all. They don't get enough dates. They don't have options. Then they might get one girl and they're going to quickly lock her down because they want consistent access to sex, right? And they're like, all right, well, I'm going to, and you hear it all the time. I just want a girlfriend. I just want a girlfriend. It's like, well, you only hear that from guys who typically don't have any girls at all, right? If you see a guy who's got a handful of women and he's got girls all over the place and he says I want a girlfriend, well, then that's probably true. He probably does want a girlfriend. But for most guys, when they say I want a girlfriend, that's coming from a place of scarcity, not from a place of abundance. And they just kind of lock down the first girl that they is lucky enough to sleep with them. So if you're in that stage, when I call that forced monogamy, right? If you're either in involuntary celibacy or forced monogamy, that is not choosing from a place of, that you're not making the right choice, you could say, because you don't have any options. So in order to kind of do what women do, we need to be able to consistently attract them. We need to date multiple women at the same time. Spin plates is a term you hear that thrown around in the manosphere and the personal growth community. We need to spin plates simultaneously, which means dating a bunch of girls at the same time, sleeping with a bunch of women at the same time, and then choosing out of those women the best one based on her personality and her likelihood to be a good partner and same values, same life trajectory. Like if you want to have a family and kids down the road, you'd hope to choose someone who also wants those things, right? If you want to have a lot of fun and you want to party and you want to have crazy bachelor-like experiences and you want to find a bisexual girlfriend, well, then you're kind of filtering for that sort of thing, right? And there's tons of girls out there who are into that too. But if you want just one girl, you want to choose from a pool of many, because that's what women are doing. They are choosing one guy, if they are choosing one guy, from a pool of many, if they're hot and if they have access, right? It's like that's how you want any negotiation to go, right? If you're trying to get the best job with the best paying salary and the best benefits and all that stuff, you're going to interview at a bunch of places, get a bunch of offers, and choose the best one. So dating should be no different. Now, the question was, how do you build, what is the advantage of social circle dating, or how do you build a social circle for dating? It's like, well, if you can't do that other thing that I just talked about, if you don't have the ability to sleep with multiple women and choose the best one, then you have no business trying to do social circle game just yet, right? You're not ready. So I like to make the analogy, social circles like farming, and what I just described, that dating process, that's like hunting, right? So you can go on Tinder, you can go day game, you can go out to bars, you can meet these girls, you can take them on dates, and then you can sleep with them and then casually see them and then choose the best one from that, right? That's like a hunting mentality. But farming is totally different. So when you're switching to social circle, what I call farming, there is no dating. You're not taking girls on dates at all. You're taking them on group dates, and those group dates are your events, right? So you meet a girl day gaming, and rather than invite her on a one-on-one date, you just add her to your Instagram. You chat with her a little on Instagram, some flirting back and forth, but rather than ask her on a date, you just don't do that. And that's it. If you're consistently showing that you're a high value dude doing cool shit, and it doesn't mean you have to be doing cool shit all the time. It just means you got to be able to caption your everyday shit in a funny way to make it look like you're doing relatively interesting shit. Like, I'm not talking about going to crazy parties all the time or doing anything out of the ordinary. I'm just saying have the ability to show what you're currently doing in a fun and interesting way, right? you don't even have to be doing stuff. You can just be posting like funny memes with the occasional caption of you fucking walking across the street, finding something interesting in the space and creating a caption on that. Now, if you guys are listening, like, oh, I can't do that, that's really hard. Well, that is a skill you have to develop. But I'm kind of going off topic a little bit. My point is, instead of asking girls on dates, they're gonna be like, why isn't this guy asking me on a date? What's every other guy asking me on a date? Why doesn't this guy? And she's gonna see that you have an interesting life and that you have a cool Instagram and you're doing cool shit. And then she's gonna reach out to you at some point and she's gonna be like, what are you up to? And that's when you know you should invite her to something. And then you're gonna invite her to a group thing. She's gonna show up. There's gonna be other women there that are gonna want you to. So now she's gonna feel that competition anxiety because there's other girls who are gunning for you also. And what does every girl want? Well, they want the guy who other girls want, right? That's the easiest way and really the only way to get 8s and up consistently. I can't talk today. Is to show that other 8s and up want you, right? And you can show that through Instagram. You can show that in person at the little parties that you have. And I'm not talking about big, fancy, crazy Playboy parties like the stuff that I used to throw. I'm talking about little dinner parties, right? Or after parties or pre-parties before going, out to a restaurant or to a club or to like a local, sort of live music sort of deal, right? But if that seems really hard to you, if that seems out of like, totally impossible, it just means you need to get better at the hunting stuff first. You need to be able to build like a consistent dating funnel, whether that's through online dating, day game, night game, maybe sugar game, seeking arrangements, or those sorts of, that's another great way that I work with a lot of older guys, and I don't have them paying for hookers or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I teach a lot of young guys how to use sugar dating as well. But it is a very consistent way to get a lot of dates. And when you go on a lot of dates, you get really good at dating. You get really good at all the skills that require consistently building attraction, passing women's shit tests, as we like to call them, right? Any woman, if she's attracted to you, she's going to test you to make sure you're really the guy that she thinks you might be, right? So if a woman's not testing you, it means she's not interested. So what's she going to do on the date? She's going to give you a hard time. She's going to, call you out on stuff. She's going to try to pigeonhole you into saying the wrong thing. And it's not because she's a bitch or a horrible person. It's just because she needs to see if you're the sort of guy that she wants, right? So that is sort of like the progression, the journey for a guy who's looking to be, and it doesn't matter if you're looking to live the lifestyle of like a Dan Bilzerian or you're looking to land your idea of a perfect 10. It's the same journey. The only difference is once you have the ability to live that Dan Bilzerian lifestyle, then you just choose the best girl and you make her your wife, right? Or you make her your open marriage or whatever sort of lifestyle you want, and then you create that, right? So it's like choosing the best women from a pool because you're so attractive that you have those options, right? In the meantime, there's lots of steps along the way, and we can dive into those specific steps. Like if someone comes to me and he's not getting any dates, it's a lot different strategy. I'm not even going to talk about social circle with that guy. That's like way down the line. That's like a guy with no money and he's homeless telling me he wants passive income. I'm like, well, let's get you normal income first. And then we can deal with the passive income, right? Because you need investments to create passive income, just like you need the asset of a social circle to create passive social opportunities or passive, sex, you could say.
Okay. So, like you talk about the Instagram thing, like capturing the life that you have now, kind of framing it, like to seem that you're having a cool lifestyle, something like that. So, like I think I've seen a video like of one of your. I think you recently had a video like regarding that. Can you talk more on that also?
Regarding what exactly?
Yeah, about like the Instagram and Instagram stories, like
Instagram. Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. So the question was, just to be clear, the question is, how does Instagram play a role in this?
Yeah, and like how do you kind of like the caption that the life that you have now go like how do you go?
Okay.
About that?
Yeah.
Actually,
so how does Instagram play a role?
Yeah.
How does Instagram play a role? How do you come up with funny, interesting content to show that you're a cool guy worth a girl chasing and asking kind of out on a date or asking to be invited out? Well, All right. So the first mistake guys make when it comes to Instagram is they think that they really need an amazing profile feed. And when I'm talking about the feed, I'm talking about, when you look at your profile, you've got you see 9 photos or videos, right? And then you might see some highlight stories, you see a bio, right? That's kind of like your Instagram main page. So guys get really focused on that. And they think they need hundreds of photos that are really high quality and showing themselves like, with tons of girls or on yachts or this or that and the other. Sure, if you have those, great. But if you don't have those, it's not that big of a deal. I know guys who have a really successful dating life and they only have 3 pictures, literally 3 pictures. One guy I know, he's got a picture of Mickey Mouse. He's got one other photo of him in like a tropical spot. And then I think another photo, which isn't even of him. It's just like a landscape. But what he does do, so that's his feed. Like when you go to his profile, that's all you see. But he's, and he's probably has, I think he even has a negative follower count. I think he's got like 1,700 followers, and I think he follows like more than that. But what he does do is he posts interesting stories, right? Because he does cool stuff, and he does a good job of posting that content. So the women that follow him, he's kind of mysterious. They don't see like what's going on his page because there's nothing there, but they do see his consistent content. And that's what you're going for. When you go on Instagram, if you're listening to this and you're like, thinking about what your typical Instagram experience looks like, I guarantee you go on there and you just watch stories. It's the ones that pop up, right? That's all you're doing. And the girls are doing the same stuff. They're just watching stories, right? And your goal is to post good, consistent stories. If you can get to multiple a day, that's great. It's kind of like the more the better, as long as they're high quality. And like I said earlier, it can range from, a funny caption of what you had for breakfast. It could be something, from your commute to work. You could repost funny memes. You could find other content, repurpose that content. You could, just hold up your phone and make a little selfie video. The point is you have to lean into this skill. What I do in my group is we have a channel called Social Media, and we're all constantly posting in there and stealing each other's content, getting feedback on whether or not the content is good and postable, and learning how to kind of sharpen our sword and get better at this skill. Because coming up with funny captions is kind of like texting, right? Like once you kind of get in the habit of doing it, it becomes easier and easier, right? It's like any sort of humor, right? You got to practice. Like if I want to get funnier, I'm going to look for situations where I can find irony in things, right? I'm going to look for words that I can tweak and make a joke out of that, right? And it's going to take me a while in the beginning to get good at that, to be fast. But as I practice, I'm going to get better and better. Same thing with the captions. As I practice coming up with interesting captions, I'm going to get better and better. Just like as I practice coming up with witty text, I'm going to get better and better. And I'm going to build that skill over time. So it's not a game changer overnight. It takes some time, but I mean, this stuff is hard. What else? There is no such thing as like an overnight dating success, unless you just happen to be a really good looking dude with a 6-pack and amazing social skills that's been hiding in a cave, and then you come out and hey, here I am. Like right? that doesn't happen.
Yeah, like if you're in a cave, you wouldn't have the social skills.
Exactly, you wouldn't have the social skills in a cave.
Yeah. So can you show any examples if you can, like about kind of any kind of captions or photos if you have them?
Yeah, I can. Let's see. I can present. Here we go. Share screen. Let's go to Instagram. All right, so you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
All right, so I can show you some examples of guys who have good profiles. So this guy, he does a great job of posting funny content. So here you see him on a boat, right, with cool people. Let me go back to that one. Like, we're all just accessories to Felipe's story, right? How can I stop that?
There's a pause button.
What's that? Oh, there's a
There's
pause
a
button.
double
There we
line.
go.
Yeah.
Ah, amazing. Right. So here we go. So he spliced these 4 photos together. This is his buddy. He's on the boat. He's with these 3 cute girls, right? And they've all got the duck. So obviously he put some time into creating this, and he came up with a funny caption here, right? He could have just done the lazy thing and just put 4 photos of these good-looking people, but he went the extra mile and he said, "We're all just accessory to Felipe's story," right? So he's showing so many cool things here. He's showing like, I surround myself with high value guys and beautiful women. We do cool stuff, and we're joking around and having fun. We're authentic. We're cool, right? So that's that first photo. This is just his story from the last 24 hours. Now we've got, there's music playing in the back. Feel the vibration. It's such a good vibration. It's that song, right? So now there's people having fun. The next one, let's see what goes on here. All right. This is him in his garage, right? Like, do we really need an interesting an interesting background? No. Him in his garage wearing a red shirt, a bull hat, saying 4:59 audiobooks on the lake. Don't mind if I do. This is what I mean. Like, this photo without the caption would be totally useless. It would just be like a dumb selfie in a garage, right?
Okay.
But now he's going to the lake. He listens to audiobooks. Like, this is what I'm talking about. And this takes some skill to develop, because you got to kind of come up with that out of nowhere, right? But hey, is that anyone could take a selfie in a garage, right? Like, when you say, "Oh, I need an interesting background for that," you don't. All right, so let's go on. Let's skip to a next one. So this one is great. This is Jordan Harbinger. He's a friend of mine. He's got a very popular podcast called The Jordan Harbinger Show.
Yeah.
He basically posts a hilarious meme once a day, and then he posts a link to his show once a day. And this says, "Monday breakfast be like, I like Pepsi. We have Coke. Okay, I'll take a gram of that and a Pepsi." Right? So just a funny story there. Next, we've got Dan. So this is just this is an example. Let's see, is there anything going on here? All right. Obviously they're playing volleyball here, right? But this is boring. This is lame. You need a caption, right? Like, come up with something absurd and silly, like having a great time playing baseball. Right? At least that's more interesting than just a boring, not that nice of a photo. It's like the photo is not even good. So this is just this is an example of what not to do, right? If you're going to go bother to posting this, add a caption, right? Let's see, Nick's here. Yeah, a caption here would be great. This is a buddy of mine who's in the war in Ukraine. I mean, he has really interesting war content, but this is a lot of it's going to be, in Ukrainian. Let's skip to who else we got here. Fernando. He usually has cool shit. Okay, he's been listening to my advice. Last stop on the way to Athens. Very cool photo with the location. I mean, when you have a photo this cool, not having a caption is okay, because the photo can speak for itself. But he's also, signaling to people that he's on the way somewhere interesting. Let's see what else he's got. Nice surprise. All right. Cool photo here. Now we've got a video. It's like a square. Not bad. Up from the fortress. Could do better here. Like, we need some humor. Now we're going to get another video. This is going to be a little bit boring. Like, most people are going to click through this, right? So more captions needed here. Let's see what we got here. Another panorama. So I'm going to literally say to more captions. See what we got here. More panorama. Definitely worth a longer stay. Okay, finally. Fucking caption. Here we go, next one. Celebrating her birthday. All right, that's cute. Time to head home. Like, this would be more interesting if he put, like, let's go back to that. Like, a great idea for this, like, what comes to the top of my head is like, okay, maybe he's stealing someone in there, you know, found myself, I mean, I don't want to make fun of midgets, but I already kind of did. Like, found myself a midget in Greece, or I mean, right? I don't know. Like, that's where my brain is going. Like, making fun of something he can stuff in the bag, or like, you know, who knew they sold, you know, lots of cocaine in Greece, right? You're just trying to come up with something ridiculous. So that's kind of where my mind goes. So this guy, I think that's just a repost. He's kind of like a promoter. He's always promoting his stuff, but this isn't a great example. Let's see if there's any other good examples of people I follow who post good stuff. You know, like the bar is low. Like, you don't need to be that interesting. Like, most of the stuff that people are posting isn't that great, but when you do post really cool stuff, like, you really stand out. My story right now, so this is a reel. I've only got one up right now. You know, this is a link to my podcast. Obviously, this is for my business, but hopefully that gives you guys some ideas. Was that helpful, Ayush?
Yeah. I think it's it's kind of a skill that you need to kind of develop, like to go through, and
Totally.
it's like to kind of see that like we kind of see these things like in any everyday life. So like we have to look at kind of way of reframing it and like kind of putting it down.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely
yeah. So can you talk about like the kind of the abundance mindset? Like, now we talk about like like people like want to having a girlfriend is like kind of like kind of scarcity mindset is like finding a one and like just looking it down. So like how do you kind of build the abundance mindset, or how do you build abundance on that side of?
Yeah. So the question is, how do you get more abundance? How do you build an abundance mindset? Well, there's one school of thought, which is fake it till you make it, which I agree. There was a really good TED Talk by Amy Cuddy called Fake It Till You Become It, I believe is the title. And that does a really good job of explaining why that sort of fake it till you make it works. When you don't have abundance, you still want to signal like you do, right? And an easy example of that would be, let's say you get a girl's number and your tendency is to message her right away, right? Maybe you don't message her right away. Maybe you wait like a couple days and maybe she messages you first, right? Or maybe you take a little while to respond to her, right? You show that you're not so thirsty and you're not so, Johnny on the ball to talk to her. And if you do those things that most other guys do, which is text her immediately, text her a whole bunch of stuff and keep texting her all the time, you're going to show like, okay, she's the only girl that you've got. And that's not very interesting for her, right? She wants a guy who other girls already want. So you can show that you have abundance by not being too available, by not texting too fast, by not responding too fast. But those are just all ways to signal that you have abundance, even if you don't. To actually build abundance, well, there's a few things you need to do. Well, first, you need to get your inner game in order, right? Like, a lot of guys will get into pickup coming from a place of really not liking women. And I think that's a huge mistake. And you're not going to get any women if you don't like women. You have to first actually like women. So if you do have these negative like trauma, that's usually trauma-induced stuff where like maybe you didn't like, maybe your mom was abusive and you had a shitty like experience with women growing up, right? Or you had other abusive women around. Like, you probably don't like women, and you should start with therapy. A lot of guys who get into pickup, they should really start with therapy first, and they should sort of untangle a lot of that trauma, either from their childhood or a younger age, and they need to actually get to a place where they like women, right? Or at least they're indifferent about women. Because if you try to meet women and you don't like them, it's going to come through. It's going to be very obvious, right? And you're not going to enjoy the process anyways. So that's step one, is get your inner game in order. Make sure you actually like women. Make sure you're in it. You're trying to improve your dating life for the right reasons. Now, if you like women, some guys might find out they might actually be gay. It's not the, I've seen that multiple times. And that's fine. Like, listen, if you like guys, right, going after women when you don't care about, it's a huge mistake. Believe it or not, some guys do need that advice. So I'm not going to gloss over it. Now, once your inner game is at least to a place where you're operating from a healthy mindset, well, now you need to get out on the court and take a lot of action, right?
Yeah.
Before you do that, I have 3 books that not before, like during that process, I really recommend that every guy read The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. That will explain masculine versus feminine energy and how attraction and polarity works, right? If you're a masculine sort of person or being, you're probably more attracted to feminine women, feminine things, right? If you're kind of in the middle, you might be attracted to kind of in the middle. And it's important to understand those dynamics, or you won't know how to create attraction. Very, very quick and easy read, Way of Superior Man, David Data. And then there's 2 other really good books that just do an amazing job of summarizing the entire journey and making sure guys have the correct sort of mindset going in. The first one is Mate by Tucker Max. And the next one is Models by Mark Manson. Mark Manson also wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a bestseller. And then he wrote a follow-up to that, which was also an amazing book. So I recommend those as well. But once you read those books, then you need to get out and you need to approach women, because you need to get past your fear of rejection. Yeah. And if I meet a guy who doesn't have an abundance of women in his life, it means he's scared of rejection every single time. There's very few guys you'll ever meet in your life that are not afraid of rejection, because we're all programmed to be afraid of rejection, right? That if you ask people's 2 biggest fears, it's platform speaking, public speaking, or not 2 biggest fears. The biggest fear, even before death, is public speaking. The second fear would probably be like approaching a beautiful woman. That is the personal journey that if you transform your relationship to rejection, you will have an abundance of women in your life in a relatively short period of time. And that journey, first, for different guys, can take a period of 3 to 6 months on the fast end of things. And for other guys, it can take a couple years, because there can be a lot of social skills that need to be developed along with that getting past rejection thing, right? Because I've seen before some guys who really have poor social skills, they can kind of immunize themselves against rejection, but then their social skills may not be good enough to actually make a connection, right? So you're doing 2 things by approaching a lot of women. You're learning to not give a shit, which makes you more attractive. You're desensitizing yourself to rejection. You're taking more risks. And at the same time, you're improving your social skills, because you're talking to all these people and you're learning what works, what doesn't work. You're playing around with different ways of being, right? Whether it's better for you to be like the funny man or the straight man, a little bit more serious, a little bit more playful. You have to kind of fool around and find the most authentic way that you can present yourself, right? And people say, oh, well, my personality is this or that or the other. It's like, no, I call bullshit. We don't have set personalities. You're not born with a personality, right? You might be born with some other traits, but our personalities are very much molded by our community, our social circle, our local culture, and then by the action that you could take. G Hopper asked a question recently. I'll get to that in a second, G Hopper. But going back to that process, what I was saying is that is what's going to get you from a place of scarcity to abundance. going out and meeting women in real life and getting better at doing that is going to transform everything when it comes to your dating life, because you're going to be getting more leads and you're going to be doing a better job at being attractive to those leads. So you need the reps. And along with that, I really recommend you get some coaching, because like you can go out and you can do all these reps, but if you're making a bunch of mistakes and you don't see those mistakes, then your path of improvement, or your rate of improvement, is going to be a lot slower than if you had a coach sort of watching you and saying like, okay, do this different. That's not the most optimal way of doing XYZ. And I can get to the question from G Hopper. Can you elaborate how the leverage program works? Is it group work? And essentially what we're doing in the leverage program is we're a group of guys. I can share my screen here. Window, Discord. So this is the IC community, which used to be called the leverage program. Now it's called the IC community. Same program, different name. So what we're doing in here is we're all taking a bunch of action, and then we're helping each other to show how we could have done that action better. So one of the biggest popular channels is approaching under meeting girls, lead generation, right? So if you just look around through here, let's take an example. Let's see. So here we go. One from Charles. I just approached a younger looking girl. She was in a real touristy area of Berlin and was taking pictures. I went up to talk to her, commented on her picture taking, asked where she was from, and then her mom showed up. Win in that I didn't fold and run away. I started talking more to the mom, talked a bit about America, and then I said, nice talking to you. Kind of repeated that I wanted to see if the girl wanted her pic taken. Wow, that sounds weird now, and left. I'm not sure I was supposed to ask her for her number, though. What would y'all have done there given more variable, right? So case in point, right? Guys are posting in here, and we're answering the questions and helping them improve their approaches. So that's one way that we do it. And I don't want to show it too much because there's some private stuff and we're live on YouTube here. So I just realized. But the other thing that we do a lot, if you notice when I just opened that under organized girl advice, is what was showing. And you saw a post from George, and he had screenshots of a text message conversation. Plus he had a write-up of how he met that girl. And that's, in my opinion, the fastest way to learn. Like, imagine you wanted to get better at tennis, right? So what do? You go out on the court with a coach. He watches you hit the ball. He shows you on a video how you're hitting the ball, right? Maybe not video in the beginning. Like, if you can't hit the ball at all, the video's not going to help. But like, first he gets you hitting the ball consistently. He shows you the proper technique. And then once you get pretty advanced, then he's going to start using more advanced ways to give you feedback, like video camera, showing you slow motion footage of your swing, trying to improve the finer details, right? So once the guy is out there approaching and getting some results, now we're going to start fine tuning. I'm going to ask him to record his approaches and post the audio or the video if he can get it in the group. And we're going to go over, what he said sort of line by line. All right, this was good because of that. This was a mistake because of that. And here you can see how she's kind of rocking to leave, and you didn't address that soon enough, and you missed an opportunity to, connect with her and get her number before she got annoyed with you and left, right? Because you didn't see that. Your social skills weren't on point enough to realize when she was leaving. So we're taking, real life situations and giving personalized, direct feedback on how you can do better in those. And the other thing is why it's effective is that it's a community of guys that are really supporting each other going through this process together, right? If you just try to build an abundant dating life and you don't have anyone helping you, you don't have the support of other dudes, it's a really lonely journey. Because what's going to happen? You're going to go out, you're going to get rejected a lot, and you're probably not going to want to continue because rejection feels bad. And if you're not with someone saying, good job, man, good for you, you're pushing your comfort zone and reminding you why you're approaching in the first place, you're going to start doing all sorts of wacky, horrible stuff for your inner game. You're going to be like, all right, well, I got rejected so many times. I just want to I just want to get some success. So I'm just going to like go for Instagrams because Instagrams are easier than phone numbers. Right. And then what you've just done in your mind is you've now, instead of going out with the intention of improving yourself and becoming a better guy, now you're going out like the thirsty dude trying to collect Instagrams. And you might win that game. You might get a bunch of Instagrams, but you're not going to get dates because she's going to be like, all right, this guy's just like out trying to like, you know, collect an Instagram. Like you walk through, hey, really cute. Can I get your Instagram? You'll probably get the Instagram, but she's not going to go out with you because you haven't made any sort of connection with her. You haven't shown any personality. You haven't done anything. Right. So we get so focused on the results when rejection is happening and we're not getting results, we get too focused on the results and then our game goes down the toilet. So being in the IC community protects you against that because it's very obvious when guys are just like hunting for Instagrams or they're doing the wrong thing or their inner game is screwed up and they're out there approaching women or they're, you know, we see their messages on Tinder or on Bumble or seeking wherever they're messaging women online with bad inner game or bad texting or just bad game. And we're like, all right, what are you doing, man? What's going on? What's happening in your mind? Oh, well, you know, these girls flake. So I'm just trying to avoid flakes. And it's like, well, that's a shitty mindset. That's not going to work. Right. If you're trying to avoid flakes, you're going to start texting girls like an annoying sort of, you know, admin CEO. You're like, listen, I'm really busy. If you schedule with me and you flake, I'm not going to see you again. Like you'll see guys getting frustrated and sending like god awful, you know, let me throw up in my mouth for a second messages like that because they're coming from a place of frustration and not coming from a place of like the actual what's that?
You mean like you kind of like
they're not operating with a correct sort of goal. Okay. Their goal's all fucked up because they're just they're trying to jam some result is what I'm trying to say. So
okay, so it's like kind of outcome independent kind of
yeah
thing.
Exactly. So I had one of the guys in the group, that same guy George. We had a coaching call at the beginning. I'd say, let's see, what's today? Today's Tuesday. It was like last Wednesday, like a week ago. And his mistake was he was just trying to collect Instagrams. You know, like I was using him as an example before. And when I'm like, listen, the goal for you as approaching, the Instagram is just a result of you having a good interaction, right? I want you focused on how can I have a good time, which is very difficult, right? But how can I step into tension? That's better. And when you go into the interaction thinking, how can I step into tension? How can I grow as a man? Well, every interaction gives you that opportunity, right? If you're going into it thinking like, all right, I'm going to step into some tension here. I'm going to put my balls in the line. I'm going to risk rejection and I'm going to grow. Every approach is a win because you're walking away with a little bit bigger pair because you did that really hard thing that most guys are scared to do. And if now you're looking at, all right, well, how can I, step into this tension more? Well, now you don't care if she gives you a shit test. Now you don't care if she's a bitch because that's just more tension. That's great, right? And then when you post in the group and you're like, hey, I just approached 5 women. I failed with all of them, but like I stepped into a lot of tension today. And then everyone applauds you and be like, good work, man. You're the man. Keep it up. Well, now you're getting positive reinforcement for, a really hard thing that most guys are too scared to do. And you need that positive reinforcement to keep going. And that's what we saw with George this last week. And he had his best week in the field. I think he did 40 something approaches and ended up with a bunch of dates. Right. And guys are like 40 approaches. That's really hard. It's like guys are spending way more time. Like it probably took George an hour per day. Maybe he was out there for 2 hours a couple times, just walking around the mall. But guys are spending way more time than that swiping on Tinder and then going on dates if they're lucky with ugly girls who are fat and look nothing like their photos from 2 years before. So it's amazing what guys will say, oh, I don't have time. It's like, well, you got time to sit on Tinder when you're, taking a dump, swiping. You're not doing shit for your dating life doing that. It's like, you're not growing from that. So it's hard. It's not easy, but very few guys are willing to do it. And that's why it works, right? Like if every guy is doing this thing and you try to do that thing, I promise it's not going to work. Tinder doesn't fucking work for anybody. Even guys who are really good looking and really like have all their shit together, they're still going to get uglier girls than they would in real life. or they'd get from their social circle. Always, right? Maybe there's an outlier if you get lucky, right place, right time, right? There's some hot girl who's on the rebound. She's looking to get laid that night. She swipes on your photo, but come on. It's like, I'm not talking about those 1 in a million shots. Like,
Yeah. So actually, if you see that the Alex thing is fire, like he has kind of the data experiments. I think you have interviewed him also. Like he had kind of like kind of the like kind of a hot looking guys, like you see, let's say like guy 10, and like there was a woman who's kind of chubby and like are really obese and stuff. So I think it's still the woman gets. I think it's 10 times more matches on Tinder. So that's what he did on this experiment.
sorry, what happened on the experiment?
Yeah. So there's a one good-looking guy. So like with let's say a 10, like from the guy's perspective with the six-pack abs and everything. So and there was a woman who's obese and like it says kind of, let's say, yeah, something like that. And now the woman actually got, I think, like 5 or 10 times more matches than the guy.
Well, that's because on any online dating site, the ratio of men
Yeah.
to women is like 8-1. It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
right? These online dating sites are built to make money, right? And who do they make money from? Well, it's not from the women; it's from the guys.
Yeah.
By parading a bunch of hot girls, a lot of those profiles are probably fake, right? It creates a slot machine effect, which is addictive, right? That's why when you go on Tinder, it's really hard to get off Tinder. You're just going to keep swiping because, hey, the next one might be the jackpot. It's the same reason you go to Vegas. You put the quarters in the slot machine, right? It's like the next one might be the one. I better keep swiping. And then before you know it, you've been swiping for like 45 minutes and you got nothing, right?
Yes,
I guarantee a lot of those profiles are fake, or they're girls who are just on there seeking validation. They're never going to go on a date. They're never going to answer a message, right? And you are being addicted to this process and you're starting to pay for it, right? So they're making money. These sites aren't going to last. I don't think they're going to last much longer. That's my prediction. I think Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all this bullshit is going to be out of business in the next few years. And I think what will replace it are sites that will actually create what women are looking for, because women are the ones that are doing the choosing in the dating market, right? And that's usually true throughout the animal kingdom, right? It almost every like species of our planet, especially mammals, like if you look at peacocks, for example, right? Like the man shows his beautiful plume, right? And the reason why that, like what he's showing, a male peacock with that beautiful plume, right, is that he's healthy and that he's a good reproductive mate, right? The chances of the peahen's kids surviving are really good because this peacock has amazing genes. That's what it shows, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that, you can read about this, and I think it's called The Evolution of Desire by David Buss. That having that crazy, beautiful peacock plume is actually dangerous, right? Like you open yourself up to predators by saying like, look at me. But in the animal kingdom, it's worth having that to get laid by a peahen, right? It's like the risk of having the huge plume outweighs the cost of potentially getting eaten. So, it's the same thing. It's like guys are doing our best to show our status, our wealth, our beauty, and then women are choosing which guys, right? Now, obviously, you want to be the guy who's choosing that there's, an abundance of women interested in you, right? And women are not having that experience online. What are they getting online? Well, they're getting they're getting paraded with a bunch of guys, but they don't know which guys are real and which guys are fake because it's so easy to bullshit, right? And that's why most women, they'll flake on a date if they meet a guy on Tinder or Hinge or Bumble. They're always going to flake on that date for someone they met in real life. Or they'll even flake on it for someone who has an Instagram that they vetted the Instagram, because women are looking for status. They're primarily attracted to status, which includes power, right? And if your profile shows status, you have a much better chance of being selected. Now, the only online dating sites that are operating right now that put status first are sites that block access to certain men. So one of those is seeking.com, seeking arrangements. There's a paywall of Seeking. It's like $100 a month at least, which means most guys can't afford it. Therefore, any guy in that site has some status because he has some money, right?
Yeah.
So the ratio of women to men on Seeking, rather than being like 8-1 men to women, I think it's the opposite. I think it's like 8-1 women to men. So when you go on Seeking as a man and you can afford the $100 a month, well, now you're actually getting being the one messaged, and you're having women kind of like open you and chase you. It's a completely opposite experience. There's another site called The League, which requires you to be vetted. I'm sure there's a few others, but like this is the where online dating will go, because women are the ones choosing, and they have information that's necessary to make that choice. On Tinder or Bumble or whatever, they're only choosing guys that basically that they're attracted to, that they want to potentially fuck. But for a woman to just do that and go out and bang some guy off Tinder, right? Like that's not going to happen as often as she'll just kind of go on a date with a guy that she's more interested in, right? You need a very sexually liberated chick who's just like trying to get laid for that to happen. So that's why they call them fuck apps. You know, Tinder is basically a fuck app because that's what's happening there. You've got, you know, some girls who are trying to get laid, who aren't very cute, hooking up with guys who are probably significantly better looking than those girls because the marketplace is skewed. And those guys, you know, the other guys who are jerking off are envious of those guys because at least they're getting something. But it's an ugly dating marketplace out there. It's very lopsided and mismatched, which is why I think these other sites will prevail over traditional online dating. So sorry if I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Not sure if where I was even going with that, but that's what I think will happen in the not so distant future, because women are not being served on the current dating sites, right? And they're only in business because men are still dumb enough to pay on them, even though the ratios are terrible.
Yeah. So like, why do you think that is like kind of still prevailing, or like, do you have?
It's just because as a guy, like you're gonna look for the easiest and, you know, painless way, right? Like we're all inherently lazy. We don't want to spend our time and energy on you know, things that we don't know. And everyone knows Tinder, right? They made it to the front of the dating market. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, if I want to go on a date, what's the first thing I do? Well, what's the easiest thing? I make a profile on Tinder and I start swiping. I can do that, you know, while I'm sitting on the toilet, right? Versus if you actually want success, you got to do the hard thing, which is, well, I got to learn how to, you know, put an outfit together. I got to take a shower. I got to go outside and I got to go talk to that girl, you know, walking down the sidewalk. But guess what? No one else is doing that. So your odds of that working are tremendously higher. It's free. It's good for you. It doesn't, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, and you're a better man for it, right? So if you're serious about this stuff, that strategy will work.
Yeah. So you talk about So in the one of your latest podcasts, I saw like you do like kind of a trip with like your friend, and like you did what you did through Instagram. So can you talk more on that?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, like on one of your like latest kind of videos, I saw like you. I think it's you said like the many matters in love. I think that's the video. Like you made made an Instagram with your friend, like you went travel, you did like Instagram ads, and that can you talk more on that also?
I still don't understand.
Yeah.
I made a video with my friend, or the road trip.
Like you had an Instagram, like a road trip, and you shared it. I think it was 3 days ago.
Oh, got it. Okay. Let me share my screen here. So before I met my wife, I was living in Kiev, and myself and my buddy Igor here, were, this was when the pandemic was kind of going, right? This is like April, May of 2020. We couldn't travel anywhere, right? And he had the fantastic idea of like, he's like, why don't we take my 2 cars? He had these 2 cars right here, this Range Rover Sport and this Mercedes. And he's like, why don't we take a road trip around Eastern Ukraine? Not just Eastern Ukraine, but like basically all of Ukraine, east of Kiev and east of Odessa, which is over half the country. He's like, let's go to all these places and let's just have fun and meet girls, take our 2 dogs, and like, so here's a photo with us and our dogs, and make a summer vacation out of it. So I said, that sounds like a great idea. And the genius thing that we did is we promoted ourselves along the way as a concert tour. You can see right here, Igor and Robbie concert tour. So we would take this post, for example, and we would market this, we would promote this on Instagram, and we'd choose our target market of, girls in the dateable demographic, right? We would go, our first stop was Poltava, which is right here, right? And we would make a post saying all the sites of Poltava in one post. Nice little town, lovely, friendly restaurants. Mini Odessa in the middle of the forest, right? And before we'd go to Poltava, we would tell the people we wanted to meet that we were going to Poltava, and we would pay for advertising on Instagram, right? And then we'd show up and meet a bunch of girls from Poltava, and then we'd kind of move on to the next city, right? And we did that in Kharkiv. We did it here in Dnipro. This is kind of a fun, video. And we also did it. We created these posts that you see here. And if you can see the translation, these are quite valuable posts for other travelers, right? This is Bartholomew Resort, Barto, as they call it, in the Dnieper. Is an absolute unique resort city built far back in 2004, which itself does not fit in one's head, as a number fund is the number fund is still a decent condition. But as you can see, this is going to go into, kind of like, a free promotion for Bartholomew River Resort, because we liked it that much. Like, we thought it'd be cool to share with other travelers that this is an awesome place to go. And I think Igor met a bunch of amazing girls in this trip. This is the trip where actually I had my wife join us about 2 weeks in, and we started dating, on this trip. And this was just like a great way to meet women and to do something fun and out of the ordinary. So if you're interested in traveling to Ukraine, meeting Ukrainian women, I highly recommend you check out this page. There's lots of good tips and different cities to go to, and feel free to drop me a DM and I can give you more intel on where to go and what to do. Now, but listen, I got to run.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks so much, Ayesh, for the interview, and
Yeah,
for
it's
everyone.
great to meet you too. So let's see you around.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Make this down.